Question of the morning. Will he or won't he? Should he or shouldn't he? Oddsmakers list Kalani Sitake at third for the Penn State job at 15% behind Lincoln Riley, 21%. Brian Dable, 16%. Other Oddsmakers site list him as the favorite. Number one, top choice. Would he take it if offered? Paul doubts it, given what he's accomplished with rebuilding, maintaining the football program. I'd like to hear the pros and cons. I'm confident that BYU is his choice.
Well, that's because you're a BYU fan. And, I mean, go back to the Utes. We're convinced Urban Meyer loved it here, and he was going to build his life in Salt Lake City. Now I realize Kalani has far deeper ties than Urban, I'll see you later, Meyer ever had. He was out the door the second he went through the door, effectively, and that's exactly what happened. And clearly Kalani Sitake is in a different situation here, having grown up here in the church affiliation and his BYU fandom and the success that he's had and is having and all that. I mean,
there's the pros, now the cons.
Well, I think that the money always talks. It always has the loudest voice in the room, and you can look at it and say, well, not in this case. Bull crap, man. People keep telling you that because they want you to believe it, not because it's true. And do you want to compete at the highest level? Is BYU committed? I mean, they sure love the basketball coaches every turn possible. And, I wrote about that few years back, caught all sorts of heat, but that bugged them. And it's the same thing here. And KY is the flavor of the day, and they just really enjoy all that stuff, and so the commitment it's there, and it's better than it has been, but is it at Penn State's level? I would say no.
Get it to the highest level.
Yeah. Now, can they get there? Maybe.
And even if you do get the commitment there with the money, as far as competing at the highest level, it's clear that there's advantages based on the brand name power of your school and the brand name power of your conference.
But what is competing at the highest level?
Winning a national championship. If you're going to take the Penn State job, as a coach, you better be ready to win a national championship because they don't want anything else at Penn State.
Okay, but that just involves all sorts of undue pressure that nobody wants. So I think that's a negative, not a positive. For Kalani. I mean, you can be king here and there. If you get to the semifinals or quarterfinals and lose, they'll throw you out. That's not. I goes back to what somebody told me in basketball, that Idaho State was a great job because the guy had been there 11 years or 8 years or I forget what it was. And
he'd been there a long time and he hadn't gotten fired.
Yeah.
Because their expectations are different. Their resources were different. Their expectations were different.
Right, and I can recall, and it's a name everyone in this town would know for many, many years. And I think, what are you talking about? And then he explained. Well, let me explain. Yeah. And he explained it.
But I think that's a coach-to-coach decision. I mean, that coach explains it to you, and that's just as valid. But on the other hand, Lane Kiffin just volunteered for the cauldron that is LSU. He could have stayed at Ole Miss and made a ton of money and been the hero. And he went to a place that is also thinking championship or bust.
Well, yeah, sure. Someone's going to take that job. Right. There was always going to be somebody who would take that job. So you'd always have, on the other hand, that job was not going to go unfulfilled. So, yeah. But that doesn't reduce the amount of grief that you take if you don't win. And if you get fired in a few years, that someone was going to take the job. That's a given. So you'd always have an example there. I still think it's a different type of expectation. Whatever you want to accomplish at Penn State, I believe you could do at BYU too.
I hadn't really thought of BYU as the school where you were going to win the championship. Maybe you can argue Penn State's not going to win a championship either just because they want to.
Why can't BYU win it?
I just think you're handicapped in the Big 12. I mean, I think the perception is it's a harder road, it's a longer road, and people are going to go other places first.
Yeah, I'm not sure Texas Tech thinks that.
Yeah. I was going to say Texas Tech has got no illusions that they can't win it.
So, I don't know that it's any harder than Penn State's.
That goes back to commitment then, because the checks Texas Tech wrote before the rules changed are checks that other Big 12 schools could have written before the rules changed. Right. But they didn't.
Right.
So that goes back to the financial commitment is good, but is the financial commitment great? Well, not as great as it is at Texas Tech, apparently.
Yeah, but if that's your situation, then you're constantly going to be measuring yourself against Ohio State.
Oh, yeah, if you go to Penn State, that's it. Yeah, you're going to get
So if you want the highest you can get, you're always going to be chasing it.
Yes. You'll be chasing at Penn State. You'll be chasing
It'll
Ohio State.
It'll be nothing but your tail the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
Ohio State and maybe Michigan. Right.
But I think BYU fans need to put the sentimentality away for a bit here. And you're looking at it with your heart, and I would too. I understand that. When he keeps saying, I was a fan here, I grew up here, blah, 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 this means more. They all say that. I saw a thing, Jim Moore and his wife, go Rams! Until 2 weeks ago, he had no idea or ever interest in want to coach at Colorado State.
I never had a thought of associating Mora and CSU.
And now there is his wife.
Fort Collins?
Yeah, his wife and him when they land on the private jet, they get off, and then they talk, oh, Rams, go Rams! And the reason why their kids aren't face painted with the Rams is because they're older. And we're not doing that, we're adults. When Dan Mullen arrives in Vegas, his kids are younger, and they all got the UNLV. Go Rebs! And go Paycheck!
If you're 8, that's great. If you're 28, it's pretty weird.
Yeah. So, they all sell you that. They don't sell you that any different.
And the coaches, the school turn around and fire the coaches, too. All the enthusiasm.
Yeah, you're going to dump on Kiffin, and Pat Hayden needed to fire him at the L.A. airport. He couldn't have waited until he got home in Manhattan Beach. It's very close to Manhattan Beach. It's not more than 5 minutes away. 10-minute stops.
Don't even have to get on the freeway. Right down surface streets.
Sepulveda is right there.
On the tarmac.
Or Aviation and Sepulveda, the two streets that go north and south right into LAX. It's minutes away. And they had to do it right then and there, so he had to find his own transportation home. What the hell is that? He couldn't have waited until the next morning?
Nope. Had to be tarmacked.
Yeah. That's a joke.
Which is now an expression, apparently.
So with that in mind, Lane Kiffin, he did them wrong. I get it, yeah. You can go with what Nick Saban said, that it's the system, and sure, to an extent it is, and blah, blah, blah. So here we go, and BYU's right in the situation now with Sitake in this. I heard about it last week, and just didn't think that Thanksgiving was a great week to discuss it. We were off the air basically for 2 days. We taped out Friday, and but then over the weekend, it starts to gain steam, and it's always funny for me because people that I can hit up once they go quiet.
Mm-hmm. That tells you.
Yeah.
Because if they were in the mood to chat, they'd just be chatting with you about whatever random stuff you text them about.
Right.
And if they don't have time to chat, then clearly something serious is going on.
Yeah. And 10 years ago, during this time, when it was clear because of the religious connection that has to be there, that Kalani was the leading candidate, the overwhelming candidate to get the job because they'd gone outside essentially twice, and here you had somebody who was one of their own, and it was independent, so it wasn't like it was it's not the caliber of job that it is today that it was then. The caliber has improved substantially, and so it was clear it was going to be him, and everybody and their dog is contacting him. And then over the holidays, he calls me and says, hey, I just want to apologize. I saw your calls, but I couldn't get back to you, blah, blah, blah. I said, I know. I said, I had to do it, but I know full well you had to go quiet because they didn't want you talking to anybody.
And you can't irritate them then.
Right, right. And it's right down into, the process. And so I said, believe me, at that point, I only had 30 years experience in the business, not 40. And so, but I said, I appreciate your call, and I'm not wishing nothing but the best. And if he goes out and does this time, same type of deal. And from BYU's perspective, if he leaves, yeah, I mean, it's a blow, but I don't think it's devastating because I think you got your successor standing right there 2 feet away in Jay Hill.
That decision shouldn't take long.
No. And I can argue easily, very much easily, that Jay Hill is the most accomplished coach, if he ends up being the head coach, that they've ever hired.
Well, they've hired so many people who haven't been head coaches before. The fact that he had the job.
The only one is Croton.
And then won so much.
And that blew up. And Weber State, he took them to unprecedented levels, and then he left, and Weber State just fired their coach last month. So they went right back to where they were. So
it was Jay. It wasn't the institution.
Plus, Jay has gotten how many transfers he's gotten from Weber that have been not really good, but stars.
The only surprise there, because at the end he would tell anybody at Weber who would listen, is that we are recruiting Mountain West Conference caliber players.
Oh, I'd say higher.
Well, that's what he said at the time. He said we are going to be good because we're recruiting this, and clearly, to your point, I mean, Kelly's a very good Big 12 player. He's an impact player in the Big 12.
Yeah, he's the latest in a line of several. With that over there, that makes me think that BYU is going to just say, okay, we're going to go to a limit, and if Penn State is going to raise it, we'll see you.
They will finally draw a line, and then Kalani will have to decide what he really wants.
Right.
Penn State at that price or BYU at that price.
And think about it. You and I were there 10 years ago. It was a Friday night, and it was a big surprise that Bronco took Virginia's job, and they had a press conference. It was the first Friday in December. I remember it vividly. And you picked me up, and we went down there to cover that press conference on a Friday night, like at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
And Tom and Bronco were sitting there talking, and Tom said, we can't match it. And how quaint was it that they couldn't match $3 to $3.5 million?
Quaint.
Yeah.
Very quaint.
That's coordinator money these days.
I was about to say.
That's a joke.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration by you on coordinator money.
Penn State's DC made 3.1 last year.
Yeah.
Yes, Penn State's DC.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's coordinator money for them. You're right.
Money. Yeah.
We're talking about Penn State.
Just
there you go.
doubling down. Yeah, right. It does illustrate how all in Penn State is.
Right.
That they'll go to $3 million.
And BYU is in a much better position. The job is much better these days. There's no question about it. Because of the financial investment, they're not independent, a number of things. Guys can have hair sticking 2 feet out of their helmets. Talk to the other BYU coaches that are no longer there. And to me, earrings in the hair, I couldn't care less. But to them, it mattered because they couldn't recruit to that. And I had a coach tell me a major player 20 minutes before kickoff had a leader came in and said, you got to go tell him he's got to shave. 20 minutes before kickoff. And I don't want to give up names, but believe me, you'd all know the name. and that's what they had to deal with. And a coach tell me, PK, why can't I just grow my mustache just to the corners of my mouth? Why does it have to be above the lip?
I don't know.
And I said,
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I said, I don't know.
Ask somebody else.
It makes no sense. Well, now that's no big deal. And that shouldn't matter, and who cares about it anyway? But for these kids, it matters. Because I always laugh that every time they had a pro day and they'd have it at the indoor facility, virtually every BYU kid would have a beard. And when Taysom Hill's having a beard, you know something is up. He was the poster child for what an LDS kid is supposed to be about. And he grew a beard. But yet he couldn't as a player just 3 months earlier. Well, now, blah, blah, blah. And the point is the rules have been loose, and they don't want to necessarily talk about it, but you can literally see it. And the ex-coaches have they've not complained, but they said, boy, we wish we would have had that in our day. Well, now you have that in this day. And so it's easier to recruit to BYU. And the idea of what basketball is telling these kids, hey, we can get you to the pros, so you can't do this and this for a few months, but the benefit that you're going to get out of it is very much worth it. And then you got somebody like DeBonsa buying into it, and away you go. And clearly in football, they've been able to expand. Plus, I also think that the kids today, they are more sophisticated, and they're willing to look at things that, as time has gone by, seem so outrageous when there was, if they recruited a black kid, it was a big deal. Well, now it's not a big deal. It's like, can the kid play? And so they got... Kids are more sophisticated and they're willing to accept it, and they're more mature. They can see that's a really good environment for me to be in. Plus, I was thinking about this too for basketball. Doesn't this show for a kid like DeBonsa and Robert Wright as they want to go to the NBA? Doesn't it scream, "Hey, we're mature. We came to BYU, and yeah, I know the money's there, but the money was going to be there wherever. That we are willing to put aside this stuff that gets in the way." Aren't they showing a commitment?
That, I think, to an NBA GM is a massive deal.
Yeah.
NBA general managers, and you go back and ask them to redraft a draft, 10 years later, how come that happened? And literally they'll tell you that kid didn't make it because he was too immature.
Right.
A top 5 pick didn't make it because of maturity, not because of quickness, agility, jumping, shooting. It was maturity.
Yeah.
And if you're going to give people a ton of money, and if you're going to bet your career on them, you want them, you're going to acknowledge they're 19. I mean, there's going to be maturity issues. There just are. 19-year-olds just aren't 39-year-olds. They're not, and they're not going to be. But still, in the realm of a 19-year-old, there's more mature and there's less mature. So, yes, I think that's a point big time. Professionally. Oh, yeah, are you interested in coming here? Yeah. How far are you to Vegas? Click. That happened. Don't want any part of that. If that's your motivation, I'm not betting my career on that. That question told me everything I need to know. Next.
Yeah.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.